to find the answer. The lack of contradiction is the final judge here on Feet to the Fire. Feet. Sunday evenings. 2 Live. How do you listen? Fire. Check out feettothefireradio.com. Now broadcasting live with archives kept in HD video on our YouTube channel and with high-quality audio only at Spreaker.com. The views expressed in the following show are of the host, the guest, and the callers. The content of the following show, its accuracy, authenticity, and the ramifications of the use or application of said content is the responsibility of those speaking and listening, not the broadcast medium. All right, we are back and we are live, Feet to the Fire. I'm your host, James Alpha-Yanchik, the Black Knight of Talk Radio. We are live from around the Chicago area. I've been changing the background. I've lived in Chicago all my life. When was it? 2006? I finally moved out where I'm at now, which is southwest Chicago, about 45 miles. Not far enough, but it beats it being in the city. Anyway, we're back and we're live. It's December 3rd, 2017. I have a potpourri, as they would say, perhaps in somewhere in Chicago, or potpourri, if you're French, Francais, of stuff to talk about today. I actually started a little earlier in the technical setup, so if you're watching on YouTube or on the Feet to the Fire Radio website, etc., I already have probably the lion's shares of links already down there, and we'll get into that pronto. Let me I want to keep track of this. Let me look at these. Oh, I don't. In the past, I've actually went over and lost links as people have emailed me and said, what happened to that link you said you were going to do? So let me, here. Gosh, what helped me to do this right? There we go. All right. So I have some queued up. We'll start off with this. You know, I've been talking about Bitcoin, and I'm starting to realize that cryptocurrencies may be very personal. Like, for example, if you're into the cryptocurrencies, if you have Bitcoins or Litecoins, Ethereum, whatever, Ripple, if you actually have these units, you're interested. But if you don't, you're not interested. So I'm probably going to... What I'm going to do in the future is, today I'm going to bring up some key things and not dwell on it because of a very small wedge of people who perhaps are interested in this in the group instead of the overall group. So I do want to have somebody on who is a little more intimate with the coding and whatnot, so I can ask some questions, technical questions. But on the Bitcoin issue, let me get to the webpage. Well, I guess I actually brought some web pages up here, so let me get this. This is interesting. This is from a website called btcmanager.com, which BTC stands for Bitcoin. Senate Bill S-1241 to criminalize concealing ownership of Bitcoin. Now, as I read it, it's not speaking specifically of Bitcoin. It's speaking specifically of if you intentionally conceal ownership or control of a bank account. Although the hearing, no further clarifications were given as to the effects this would have on cryptocurrency community. The bill would criminalize those intentionally concealing ownership or control of a digital currency or digital exchange account. Now, it's really not as bad as it sounds in terms of what were your plans. If your plans were to avoid taxes, which, that's their government's mandate, is to collect taxes among everything else, or over everything else. If you were to avoid taxes, then there would be a problem, because what you'd be doing, it's against the law anyway to avoid taxes. So what they're trying to do, and if I can get to another story, where's the story? All right, I don't have it. Let me get up here and get it out there, because I don't have it flagged. I did. I must have closed it by mistake. We'll get it. It's coming. I hate Facebook. I hate how it scrolls. I hate it. But here we go. IRS to obtain identities of 14,355 crypto users. Now, it is a true statement. Court in California ordered cryptocurrency exchange to hand over identities of thousands of users this week to the Internal Revenue Service. Coinbase, which is one of the most popular sites for selling and buying digital currencies, must give over to the federal government names, birth dates, addresses, and connectivity of 14,000 users. Now, in tandem with this other bill, if the actual court, they wanted all the users. And what happened is the court limited to anybody who sent or received more than 20,000 worth of cryptocurrencies. That's the threshold. 19,000, they don't have to hand a name over. But as my accountant, as I was talking crypto, is what my accountant said, that any capital gains you do, even if it can't be traced, you are legally obligated to. Now, people may scoff at it and say, well, I'm not going to tell them. And that's fine. And I'm not saying you should or shouldn't. It's not a moral issue. I'm just talking about the law. So if you buy a car, and you pay $100 for it, you put $1,000 into it, and you sell it for $2,000, there's a capital gains there. Problem is that it's not a big deal. If you're doing it in like in a hobby sense, because if you try to, say you have a hobby and you end up making some money at the hobby, but you spend more than you make, that's, the IRS calls it a hobby, and there's no problem there. So it's not, it's a story. It's like, see, the feds are they're coming into your lives. Well, yeah, they're already in our lives. This is all nothing new here, except what they're trying to do is put a law that makes it easier to simply, so if you have, if this law is accurate in how it's done, if you have any bank account, any account, your stock account, bank, cryptos, any of those counts, you are, and you conceal the activity there is, which means you don't tell them. By not concealing it, you don't have to hide it. You could just not tell them. But there's already laws dealing with that. So it's kind of, I'm looking at it as there must be something else in store so that they're going to compel everybody to volunteer the information. But as far as I understand, any type of capital gains, if any kind of trader, if you're a stock trader, are going to give you a result at the end of the year, they may send that in to the IRS as well, like bank accounts. If you deal in $10,000 in cash, it might even be checked. Like if you get a check for, say, $15,000 from your bank, that may have to be reported. I know the cash is. Maybe they don't report the check because there's already an audit trail there. But, so this to me was not as like, as it is to some people. And they kind of overblown the headline. It's like, wow, you're supposed to have told, if you buy Bitcoin at 3,000, you sell it for 10,000. There's 7,000 there in capital gains. That's the law before Bitcoin. It's the law. It doesn't matter if you buy rare coins and buy and sell them, and there's a profit involved. You have to report that. Now, will you get caught? And that's what people have been doing. It's like, well, this may make it easier for them to get caught, and then therefore it would be a change. But for me, it was like I planned I planned on any type of capital gains I got, I would report it. It's not that I'm looking at it as a moral issue. I think the taxation and the way they're doing stuff is wrong, but it's the law. So it's either you can do it, risk jail, or leave. Oh, but that's why I wanted to mention that, because it's not, to me, it's kind of like, it's not as big a deal as it sounds like, unless this is a nefarious step in that direction. Now, going along on my little Bitcoin thing here, I want to go through, what did I do here? Oh, there's my article. I'll get to that. All right. Here is a problem. If you do have Bitcoins, these wallet addresses are just phenomenally large and weird. They're all hexadecimal, so they're gibberish almost, basically. So if you send, you have an account with a buyer and seller place, like Coinbase, which is the subject of the last article about turning over information. If you want to move your coin out of their system, you send it to a wallet and it transfers there. Now, if there's a typo in this wallet, first off, the numbers are so huge, the odds of you typing a number and going into somebody's wallet is really huge. Or there's probably a lot of wallets out there, but the number is phenomenally large. So most likely what happens is if you mistype it, it will go nowhere. And then you don't get it in your wallet, and you go back and realize, oh, I typed a wrong number in, and you contact the account and say, made a mistake, I got to do this. There are some pretty hefty charges that they will put in there. I mean, there's no regulation on it, so some of them will charge 1/10 of, here's Ethereum. It shows that in this particular article, Coin Exchange charges 10% of the transaction amount for the ERC20 tokens going wrong address. There's a 0.5 Ethereum recovery fee, Bitcoins and all that, anywhere from $25 to $1,000. So, I mean, this is one of the scams in it. That's one of the things about Bitcoin. It's like talking about protecting yourself with a gun. Gun can go off, you can misfire, you can shoot somebody. There's all these things that don't there if you don't have the gun. But now if somebody breaks in your house, you don't have that kind of defense. You see, so if you gained the defense with the gun, but now you got more responsibility for things you can do wrong. Same thing with these cryptos. If you have these cryptos, the responsibility is in your hands to handle them properly, and it's not that it's hard to handle. It's very detailed and exact. It's like, for example, if you assign each Bitcoin when you have it, or any of these cryptos, you're going to have a key for it. So there are key makers where you can type in, say, a long phrase, line from a song or something like that, and then it'll turn it into a key. If you forget that, or you add a word or whatever like that, you can't use that coin is gone forever until you can find that proper key. And if you can't, it's gone. And you can't just send an email to somebody and say, hey, I've lost my key. Could you reset it or whatever? No, it's a standalone deal. So when you do take your cryptos off the exchanges and keep them in your wallet, there's a lot of things you got to do to protect it. And what I also talk about here, let me go back to my proper screening here, is that I do have articles, I do have links underneath the video. I got to find it now. Here. Here's a video how to make a Bitcoin paper wallet. So you can actually print out your Bitcoin, and there will be a QR code with it, so you can rescan it in. As I use the term reconstitute it. By putting it on paper, you're kind of freeze drying the Bitcoin or any crypto, and it's not usable in that form. I mean, you could sell it to somebody, and they're going to have to trust you that they're giving you a real Bitcoin and the real key and all that stuff, which they're not going to do. So it's basically what you're doing is freeze drying it off of the internet, and then you could reconstitute it back into a electronic wallet and then use it. So that's a very safe way to keep it, except somebody could steal the paper, but then you got your key code. Well, then if you got the key code on the paper, it's so, even with that, there's still that the responsibility is you putting in a safe spot, separating your key phrases, your key codes, your keys, and then being able to retrieve them and not lose the key, because if you lose the key, it doesn't matter. And there's also a video on ways to keep your Bitcoin safe, and that goes for all cryptos. So anytime when you have decentralization, so to speak, you have more personal responsibility. For example, if you don't have a police force, you're decentralizing. Now you're going to have your own police force, which is what they used to do, back in the Wild West. We'll say you would hire your own hands on your, and so on. So that's the thing. And I had a nice little talk. If you go to the Facebook thread, you can see the talk I had with Rob Davin of Free Jack TV and Conspiracy Channel. He brought up some good points of the future of Bitcoin, in that he thinks it's going to be tanked by the big boys, and then another currency will be rolled out to take its place. Ethereum might already be that one because of its ties with the way it's set up. I disagree. He's got very good points. I'm thinking that they're going to want to get Bitcoin. They're going to want to use the Bitcoin rather than try to just destroy it and then make their own. They're going to make their own anyway. My theory is that they're going to raise and lower the prices, and when it goes, they're going to buy out the Bitcoin, because there's not that many of them, relatively speaking, 26 million, and they'll become their personal banker's bank, as I put it. And I have an article a very brief article that I put up on Feet to the Fire, and it is on Facebook, saying that the real value of Bitcoin is its infrastructure. And I think the bankers are going to want to buy it and use it and raise the price up to hundreds of thousands or even $1 million per Bitcoin and use it for their own storage. Meanwhile, they're then rolling out these other ones for us to use. So this is, my opinion, which is disagreed with. I don't have any inside info, or, didn't get any revelation from God. It's just the way that I'm going. There is the latest information at this moment from Coinbase. Bitcoin 11,410. And you can see from the graph, this is last week. This has been a pretty ding up and down here. So it hit 11, let's say 11.3, and then went down to 9, and went down even farther. And it's back up again. It just went down, and now it's coming back up. So it's really pretty volatile this point, but it's all because people are getting, they may have bought it at a lower rate, and now they're thinking I'll take a profit. And then there's those who are day trading, so they're selling it at 11, buying it back at 9, selling it at 11, buying, and so forth. So there's people doing that, and there's your flux. The one weak spot I want to mention in Bitcoin I see is the number of coins. It's very possible that somebody might have a lot of coins, let's say 10,000. And if they were to sell all of those on the market, it would crash the price. So what's coming up is a futures market where you can sell it short. So my thing is that when the Bitcoin futures come in, now you can buy it, sell them short, turn around and take your Bitcoins if you're an institution or somebody who has a lot of them, dump them on the market, crash the price, collect on your selling short, turn around and rebuy the coins on the lower rate, and just, keep doing it. So my hope is that the price goes up high enough to make that kind of thing, so that when someone dumps the coins on the market, it's not going to fall that much. That's my non-professional opinion on it, and I'll leave it at that be. Because like I'm saying, talking about this stuff could get kind of laborious for people. So let me just kind of switch gears there on that. The big talk. Oh, by the way, I didn't mention it. We don't have a less visible. He called me today. He didn't have the ability to get something together, so there is no less visible today. So I wanted to mention that. You know, the thing that's been kicked around until you're probably blue in the face is the Flynn pleading guilty. And I've put together a bunch of links in the past, kind of like giving you, because there's so many of them, kind of like taking like the best ones from these various points and put it together. And we have one, let me see if I can find it here quickly. I have one by a guest we've had on several times, Jim Jantris. And I'm going to have to go to the main Twitter. They go ask somebody who's ostensibly not a target, ask cooperation. He replies from memory. Then they compare the monitored emails and phone transcripts that the person doesn't know that they have. Each discrepancy equals a felony charge of lying. Choice, decades in jail, or plea. And that's a very good point, is that they had been they've been monitoring Flynn and others, even though they said they didn't. And then Trump said when he was being wiretapped, they were saying he's crazy. And while he was wiretapped, the term would be surveilled as opposed to the old school term of wiretap. He is 70. And so they take him and they record his phone calls. Then they ask him, as officially being interviewed, which you can't lie to FBI. They ask you, did you say this, you say that? And you say that. Now they compare him and say, nope, you're lying. So you're going to go to jail for lying to the feds, or we can take a plea. And so we'll lessen the charge, or we'll drop the charge if you testify against Trump, who we're trying to nail. Now, we don't care if you tell the truth or not, because we're not going to, as long as we can just get him. And so these people, Manafort and others, are not doing it. They're not rolling over. And so, and they're not rolling over and lying, is what to quote Roger Stone on it. So that's the problem we're having here, is that this is such a witch hunt that they are going after people who have been erroneously and legally wiretapped, using those wiretaps, asking questions to get them to talk about that topic. They respond, either they lie, they misremember, or, I mean, if you ask me about conversations, I mean, I'm going to be like, oh, yeah, I said this, I said that, and I'm going to come up with probably my remembered rendition of it, and it doesn't mean it's going to be exact, you know. So this is the obscenity here, is that they're not looking to try and find facts and who did what. They're looking to find something they can hang these people with, and that's it. They just want to hang them. It's so obvious, and yet I've talked to friends of mine who are case-hardened liberal Democrats who they don't care what they do to get him. He has got to go. He's an embarrassment. We don't want him. We want our people. I don't care if you lie, cheat, or steal to get him out of there. It's good to do that, which, you know, it just blows my mind, because that's just ridiculous. But, you know, I'm also learning a lot about people that I know, where their things are. I got some people showing up in the chat room. Dirty Man Jones, Zindi, Boiled Nuts, elephant shoes, when it's got a 4 in there, so that screws me up with my dyslexia. So it's not that I'm ignoring you, but I got to think about what I'm talking about, otherwise I won't get it. So that's the part of the thing talking about. Now, I got Dershowitz, which is we'll say a liberal Democratic lawyer who is looking at the actual thing from a lawyer's perspective, as a lawyer, as opposed to a partisan. And one of the things he said in there, and I got the links to it on the Breitbart article, but I quoted one of the things he said is, Dershowitz said, well, the last thing any prosecutor wants to do is to have to indict his primary witness for lying, because when you indict your witness for lying, it really means he's not useful as a witness. He has no credibility. And that's a good point, that Flynn is lying. All these people are lying to the FBI, and you're going to have them testify against Trump. Now, the concept is to get them for anything. Use that possible prison time over their head and get them to say what you want. So that's the plan, except it's not like they had him for gun running or something. They had him for lying. So now you're going to have him all automatically now they're going to be telling the truth. So if it ever comes to litigation, the defense team lawyers will have a field day with that. And let me go back to. I gotta find. I set up all the Bitcoin stuff here. Now, for those who haven't been under a rock in the United States, the news has been buzzing for days now with this. Flynn has pled guilty to lying to FBI and has agreed to cooperate. That's the story. That's it. That's the story. However, when it was given, it was released that Flynn pleaded guilty and will be testifying against the president that he sent him to go talk to the Russians before he was elected. Which the actual truth of it is none of that. He pled guilty to these charges and will cooperate. Period. The ABC added in this other stuff, which they said, turns out that Flynn talked to the Russian ambassador after Trump was elected. So this whole thing is going in to look for collusion in trying to fix the election for Trump. That means prior to the election. And what they're now talking about are things, with Manafort's case, things that were done 10 years ago, nothing to do with Trump, and he lied about it to the FBI, so now they're in trouble. And now with Flynn, he did something after they were elected. Now, Flynn lied about it, and that's the problem. But what he did wasn't illegal. Setting up a meeting with anybody. Plus, what's also problematic is how they got the tapes to do this, because technically those tapes are illegally got. They're illegally amassed. There's a whole thing about this. So this is a big call, but you won't get this from the mainstream media. And this is the part that bothers me, because when I'll talk to a friend of mine who's into this, he doesn't know any of the stuff I just said. All he's got is the actual lies. I mean, ABC had to actually put several clarifications out on error. Clarification got upgraded to serious error, and the reporter is suspended. And the markets tanked. People lost money on this because of this erroneous reporting. So just think if it was Alex Jones, for example, doing this, what they would do. What a heart attack they would come after him for. They would be arrested. They would look into his finances to see if he financially gained from saying those news and crashing. I mean, the whole thing would be going crazy on him. This is the part that bothers me. It's like, hey, all I want is fairness and legality of it. People are innocent to prove guilty. They must be proven guilty. They have to have an actual crime. They want to impeach Trump for what? I don't like him. Anyway, I'm not going to go too much into it. I'm sure everyone who's listening has heard this a million times. And but if you are a listener, and I would appreciate email from people who happen to be listening to this but aren't really into the internet news cycle, and this is a surprise to them. I'd like email to be able to recommend some stuff to look at. Remember, no matter where you go, whether you're on the right or left, the internet or the print media, all this stuff you have to verify it. And when someone says from an unnamed source that is the weakest reporting thing you can do until it touches base, tethers into reality, where there's evidence, where a person's coming forward and making statements that has the ability to actually know the stuff they're saying. That's when you start getting real stuff. So when you keep reading about all these things happening and people are writing a little narrative around, I mean, this is not limited to the internet. I mean, this is what the mainstream is doing. I think I can put that one to bed. Let's see. Yeah, entrapment. This is what the legal problem. Now, I want to mention go back to the weathermen. For those, I don't know, 50 or older, I guess, or I don't know. I'm 60, so at least my age or around there. Remember the weathermen back in the 60s and the 70s, I think it was the 70s mainly, what they were doing where they were blowing up banks and stuff. And they had a remarkable run where they blew up banks but never harmed anybody. Just one of their own got killed when a bomb was being prepared, or he got injured. I think he was killed. But anyway, they were looking for these guys for years. And it's the name's going to escape me now. It's the guy who Obama was talking with. Bill, excuse me. Oh, boy, if I'm yawning, I can imagine what you guys are doing. Bill Ayers and his wife, and I can't think of her name offhand, they, after years of being on the run in the FBI, they walked into the FBI, turned himself in, but they couldn't prosecute him because the FBI broke so many laws in trying to find them and trap them and, you know, illegal tapping and all this stuff that they actually didn't get any charges. Charges were dropped because if they did, the defense team would have roasted them. Well, they don't have to worry about that now because the law's been changed. They could do just about anything, and it's legal. Remember President Nixon saying that by definition, if the president does it, it's not illegal, which is quite a statement. Well, it's true now. You know, except this president. The past president and other people. So, anyway, I'll let that go there. Back to the webpage. You know, there's another thing going on with all this sexual harassment stuff coming up, especially in Congress, that there is an actual slush fund that came out with tax money to pay the people off who are having sexual harassment, threatening lawsuits, and so they're paid off by the slush fund. And, of course, that slush fund and the people in the slush fund and how much money and how many different cases. I mean, we don't need to know the names necessarily of the people who were the people who were harassed, but the names of all those senators and congressmen, whatever, they should be out there with how much money and how many cases should be listed on there, and that should be right up there for whether this is illegal or not. It's definitely unethical, and it's ridiculous. So these people should be front and center. And I got a tweet here from Ron DeSantis. I'm not sure who he is, but he's the one with the tweet. And there is a law. What's it called? Congressional Accountability and Hush Fund Elimination Act has been introduced. I'm going to have to click on the big link here to read it. Required disclosure within 30 calendar days of all settlements, payments funded by taxpayers, the reason for the payment, and the nature of the allegation, and the member of Congress or congressional staff that are implicated in the matter. Prohibit the future use of taxpayer dollars to pay sexual harassment and sexual assault claims against members of Congress and staff. Prohibit members of Congress from using office budgets to camouflage payments. Require members of Congress and staff that have been named in sexual harassment or sexual assault settlement paid for by a taxpayer to reimburse the U.S. Treasury with interest. Any individual who received an award may make public statements about the claims, notwithstanding the terms of the non-disclosure agreement, and non-disclosure agreements cannot be made a condition of any future settlements. What a fantastic law. You know, this is out there. This should be passed. It should fly through with colors. And then all the people would have to be, within 30 days of this passing, they'd have to come out and give this information. And if not, they would be held by this law. They could be arrested by this law. Fantastic law. Should sail through Congress. Don't know if it will. But it's something that we should look for. We should look on. It's a bipartisan bill, according to this tweet. And there you go. And I can't even imagine somebody saying anything's wrong with that. Got to go back to here now. Oh, I'm hitting all these things. You guys are getting all dizzy. So that's something I wanted to mention. Let me see if I'm missing any. You got my dad used to say you can't make chicken salad out of chicken poop. So that let me see, make sure if I got any of the other news stuff. You know, RT has to register now, along with gosh, I can't think of the name of the other news organization, as a foreign agent. Of course, then Russia retaliated by having the same thing happen here. But the reason why they don't like RT's reporting, I'm going to go to a clip here. is the slave markets in liberated, quote-unquote, area and the silence of the humanitarian hawks. This was not happening back when Gaddafi was running things. This is this new business, or this business is booming because of the NATO bombing of Libya. You know, these are the things that they don't like. They don't want this to come up. The mainstream media has been tamed into not saying these things. So that's the real reason they're doing this. This is the real reason why they're going after Russia has many different sticks. Russia is now becoming its own economic power outside of the central banks. They're paid off their IMF money fund. They have oil, and they're not doing. They forbade GMOs, and so now they're one of the biggest producers. Probably could be the biggest of organic products, organic growth, organic plants. You know, food, and so on. So this is why I don't like Russia. Plus, they're very strong and powerful. That if the United States and Russia went up in a nuclear war, we'd all be dead. I mean, you can't stop the stuff coming in. No, they couldn't stop perhaps stuff going into them, but this is why it's ridiculous. Because if someone were to do this, it's the end of the earth as we know it. I mean, life may go on, but it'd be back to hunter-gatherers. So we go forward here. Let's make sure Catherine Alton Fitz, I've had her on Feed the Fire a few times. She's a great whistleblower in her own right back in the Bush era. She keeps bringing this up, and now she also has she has her own files to corroborate with this link. And I have this link to her tweet, which will give her the link to her part. $21 trillion, according to DOD and HUD documents. That's $65,000 per person, more than the U.S. debt. This is the money that's missing. In other words, there wouldn't be any debt. This is the stuff that should be, this is the main stuff that should be being done in here, not the rushing fishing expedition that we have here, which is totally and absolutely totally. Let me close these so I don't keep opening these things. So that link is there. Now, I put this up here. FCC chair blast YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. This whole thing about the net neutrality. The problem is we're talking like, and again, there's some nice conversation here with Rob Davin from Conspiracy Channel / Free Jack TV. Is that you have two issues. You have the actual provider of the internet service, and what they could do under the net neutrality changes is they could decide to you what type of, this one can load faster, this one takes longer. What AT&T did to Netflix is they retarded their streaming of their stuff through AT&T because they didn't like that AT&T, who provides cable along with the internet, people were watching Netflix, for example, rather than subscribing to HBO or something through them. So now they're losing that money, so they would retard the signal so you wouldn't stream well, and people would start canceling their Netflix account and extort money from Netflix. And they did. Netflix paid them. All of a sudden, the streaming was fine. Comcast has sworn on their own name or whatever that they're not going to do this. They haven't done it and will not do it. But that's the one thing, the hardware part of it. The other thing is the software part of it, where Google and Facebook and those people, YouTube, they can decide what gets blocked, what money-making capabilities are cut, just because they don't like the topic. So they're going through and are ideologically censoring and filtering out. The other one would be through hardware, would be retarding or limiting access to. So both have to be addressed. And if you deal with one, the net neutrality as it stands, you're not dealing at all with the Facebook / Google. And what I would like to see is, one, if I was king or president or whatever, I would say that you have to separate the hardware provider, the internet provider, from the content provider. You cannot be the same. You have either or. Now, they have other things about this, like you couldn't have a newspaper and a TV and a radio like in one market, right? So there were laws to stop all of that. And in fact, WGN Chicago was famously had those three because they had them before the law came in. It's gone now because they've sold out. They've divested for other reasons. But so you could say, like, yeah, you want to be an internet provider? You can't be a content provider. You have to spin off the companies. And just like what they did with the long distance and the local and the breakup of AT&T years ago, which people would argue actually worked out better for them. But so that would solve the problem, is that all the content providers aren't the hardware. And then you have the laws that say, no, hardware providers can't make deals with the content providers to kind of give you good signal here, bad signal there. So that's a good rule. And then on the other side, when you become a Facebook, even though technically you have competitors, they're so small in the market that you actually become somewhat of a utility. Now, even though you're a private company, you can't discriminate based on religion or political ideology. You can limit access based on whether it's explicit content or not, which has been going on for years everywhere. That's nothing new, and that's fine. You want that. And then, of course, Facebook has been caught allowing things that are very distasteful and borderline, if not actually aiding and abetting to the sexual delinquency of minors. That can go through, but if you talk about, like, for example, I did an interview about the Saudi, some of the things going on in Saudi Arabia. That's decided by YouTube that it's not worthy of having a possible advertiser income on it. You know what? So that's the thing about net neutrality. It's not a simple. Let me turn this off. It's not a simple thing. Let me see. I got the comment. Yeah, I'd recommend people read that. I'll see if I can figure out how to do a link, because I don't know how you do a link to Facebook to a post. Oh, yeah, here it is right here. Okay, good. In fact, I'm going to cut and paste that. I'm going to cut and paste that right there. How do I do that? So I can put this right now. I'm going to have to put it somewhere because I'll lose it. This way I can put it in the link so you can read about what Rob is saying on there, because he's bringing up some good technical points about the Bitcoin. I was looking to see if anything else was coming out on the stuff. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. So I'll have to remember to do that. I don't want to sit and do it now because I'm live on the air. If there's any questions of this topic stuff, people I do have a phone line. I haven't been mentioning it, but it's just that it's not been. People don't sit calling on a phone when I do this stuff per much. You need to have huge numbers listening live to have a small percentage to call in. But it is 888-863-2722 is a toll-free number here. And I do have my Skype up, B2 Fire to number 2. If you have a question or a point to bring in here, I got to try and, what am I doing here? All right. Gosh. Streaming. This is terrible. I remember watching some events from Lionel Nation, and he would do stuff, and he'd be saying, he'd be apologizing, and I'd be going, no, it's okay, and here I am doing it, but, I understand. Let me get to the... All right, so I can put this link in here. Hopefully that'll work. With that, because that's some pretty good stuff on there. Let's see. Looking. Apparently, I got Did you mine your coin, or do you have a monster setup? No, I didn't. This is coming out of the chat room. Zindy's dad, she said she was thanked about my talking of Bitcoin and all that, and she asked if I mined my Bitcoin coins. Do I have a monster setup? No, I did not mine it. It's through an exchange. I went through an exchange for cryptos with, I squeezed out money that should be spending elsewhere, but so far it's working out. But no, I don't have it. And the thing is, if you look back in the show, if you look back at Feet to the Fire, feetdigital2fire.com, and you go into the past shows, there's a little Google search. You can look for, what was his name? I think of his name now. Hiro, what's his? Hiro White. It's a screen name. Trying to think of what it is. Maybe I can look it up here. Yeah, Hiro space White. That's a guest I had. That's his screen name. It was in 2011. We talked about Bitcoin and other things that were going on there. And even at that time, to mine Bitcoins, you needed a serious monster setup to do it. And that was only a couple years after its inception. In the beginning, you could mine them on your own computers, but as I understand it, it works is every time you solve the equation, the blockchain, you have a Bitcoin. And now the calculations get harder the next time. So now you have millions of Bitcoins out there. The calculations have went so far that you have people have to make serious investments, thousands and tens of thousands of dollars, maybe even hundreds of thousands, in putting together serious multiple computers with many video cards that are hooked up together, and they're all hooked up together working on these calculations, because to mine ones currently, you have to have this kind of stuff, and it's going to get worse and worse as you get closer to the last Bitcoins. They're basically not mineable at that point. So people are now starting companies. Like there was one Russian mining company who was taking Ethereum and Bitcoin as an investment, and they were going to pay you back in Bitcoin based on their mining, but they needed millions to buy all this equipment and get it going. So the miners now who have mined a lot of coin in the past, unless they've upgraded their equipment, they're no longer actively mining. They just have a lot of Bitcoin, and therefore they could be on these boards at bitcoin.org and whatnot. So it's a very complicated system now. And I don't know how the other cryptos are. Some of them are actually issued, like Ripple is being issued by a central source, which it's kind of weird. Yeah. Now this is Zindy saying that their friend started mining and built a computer for it. Did they get anything? And how much did they have to make their computer? Because as far as I know on it, the amounts are just humongous. Right. Looking here, I got a letter. Always moving in. Blah, blah, blah. I'm looking at an email I'm getting from Ray here, who's the guy who every week will write me a long, okay, I think I need to put up right here. This is from, I'm getting this now. Just saw this on AP Wire, that Venezuela is going to have a cryptocurrency for 2008, and it will 18, and it will be based on the country's richest, we call the petro, thus its value based on gas, oil, gold, mineral deposits, etc. Well, this is exactly what social credit has been proposing close to 100 years now. Okay, so all right, so let me go through the rest of my stuff here to make sure I don't miss anything as we close in here on the hour mark. I did post a pretty cool picture. Let me put this on here. It's a nice picture. Nice to have nice things every so often, rather than just garbage. Guy used his camera to take a picture of the Milky Way. Very nice picture. I have that on the Facebook page. Oh, that's the wrong window. It'd be a little nicer. Yeah, it looks a little better. That's pretty nice. That's something I wanted to fool with cameras and all that. I didn't. My brother-in-law has been fooling around with it, so I can live vicariously through other people's works. Oops, wrong button. Anything else I got here? Anything else? I started mining. He mined 48 in 24 hours. He got $4. About $4 in 24 hours. So he makes $4 every day in mining. So he means he's mined something. But I'd like to see. I don't want people just to wait hanging on here, but I'd like to see exact how long it takes. How much the equipment is, how long did he run it to get his first coin, and then as far as the hours and resources and all that, because that's one of the things I've been reading now. It's now costing, I don't know, $800, $1,000, or I forgot the number, somewhere between $400 and $2,000. So that's a big spread per coin if you divide the amount of the resources used on it. Needs way more processors. Yeah. But the fact that if you can get one, without having to spend your life savings. I mean, right now it's up to $11,000. So it's how much can you do it? Yeah. You need ways more process. I mean, some of the setups I saw where they have 40-foot shipping containers lined with racks, all full of servers in there, lined together working. So we're talking a lot of money. Hundreds of thousands of dollars in equipment to run, and now these guys need to actually. They can't have one or two coins. They have to have a certain amount just to break even. And if they have investors doing it, they got to pay them back. Okay, now let me just turn this off for a minute because I was having trouble here with my nose, and I didn't feel like. Publicly. Yeah, well, see, the thing was, they said that Bitcoin is some kind of government app. They'd beat your door if you had any currency. They couldn't. The problem is that it's not a currency. It's I don't know. It's called a cryptocurrency, but by official rules, nobody has to take a Bitcoin for anything. If you want to use Bitcoin for value, you can. And now they're going to start governing it because they thought it would just go away. It's tanked a few times. Some people have lost money, but they've gained it all back and then some. So if you really want to hit somebody, you're going to have to go from $11,000 down to, $50 and never go back. Then everybody will get burned. So as long as somebody wants to buy one and someone wants to sell it, and even so, if somebody wants to buy it, that's all that matters. Because even if nobody wants to sell them, the price will still rise based on the asking price, and then somebody will sell eventually. So it's going to be like one of these things we'll just have to watch and see. The rule here is don't sell your house and buy Bitcoins because it's too much of a risk. And right now, with the price at $11,425, it's for most people, that's a pretty serious decision. This is why I think Bitcoin will get out of the hands of the little guys and start to be institutionally manipulated and bought. And my hope is to hold on till the end game when it eventually gets up to 100, 500,000, a million, and then let the bankers have it at that point, and I can go, retire or whatever. It's just play. I'm just doing it. So anyway, okay. I think rather than just rambling on here, I think I'm going to call it a night. We just check, make sure nothing else has come up. I don't need to have... I do want to warn about some websites. I mean, as I go into my news feed, which I get from all you, the listeners, or at least friends. Hold on, I got to change the little screen here again. I'm sorry. People who send in stuff on my feed, which I read. I get news from there, and a lot of these people are quoting, if you notice with this whole deal with Flynn pleading guilty, it kind of puts to bed the whole idea that Mueller is working with Trump, some big sting to go against Clinton and all that. And Clinton was getting pretty lippy with stuff going on with Flynn, so it kind of puts it to bed that they're working here. Now, you can still keep it running and say, well, you know, this is all a big front just to throw the people off, and I'm like, boy, you're really pushing things here. Sorry about this. You're really pushing things, and I could never really do that. I can't really go for that. But it kind of puts it to bed on that. But also, we mentioned that what came up was pretty weak. So their hand is coming out after all this time, and it's pretty weak. I'm looking for last-minute news here before I shut down. All right. Rock, paper, scissors. That's funny. I didn't mention this. I had it in my notes. 2075 charge, a New Jersey child predator. So that stuff's going on. But I also read some articles. I read some articles showing that the whole Trump going after all of these people, the data is being manipulated to make it look better than it is, because the data from 2004, I was reading this stuff, that there wasn't the full amount of people who were prosecuted for child trafficking and whatnot. So, yeah, it's good they're doing it. Yeah, they're going on, but it gives me the impression that it's not like nobody was doing it before and now they're doing it. And maybe there's a more friendlier infrastructure to this thing. I don't know, but it's good to see it. It's just that it's being somewhat blown up by saying that prior to Trump, nobody was doing nothing or it was so much lower. Some of the evidence I've been reading is showing that there's been some, selectively taking data. So, yeah, it's good, and I'm happy about it, and keep it going. All right, I'm thinking, unless I get anything else coming out of the chat room here. All right, that sounds good. I think we're going to call it a night on this, and we'll see what happens. We're living in very volatile times, and it changes so much that when I'm driving, I'll turn on Alex Jones, try to get some information out of that, or Drudge while I'm driving, because it's just so fluid. And when I stop to deliver, I'm going through my Facebook feed, because again, my feed is those people who are friends with me. They're supposedly have listened to the show or me, or, so I'm getting this information as well as doing searches of my own. Yeah. So, all right. We'll leave it at that, I guess, and we'll go. And we'll catch you next time.
ancient one of old, with wisdom for the new. We can find our inner sight